I was dripping with sweat. I mean, getting down to the get down.
Oh, wow.
Just throwing it down. And people in the club were like watching. This guy is doing it big.
Oh, wow.
And she's just looking at me like, you're going to dance all night? And I was like, well, yeah, we're going to dance until they turn the music off.
Welcome to Real Love, Real Stories TV and podcast. This is Kanu and I'm the host. This is the place to be to hear love stories. So thank you so much for tuning in. So speaking of love stories, in the guest chair today, I have Buffy and Robert. Buffy is a clinical psychologist who works with adult women who have survived trauma in some form. And she also trains other new clinicians. Her practice serves the community through caring and effective therapeutic services. And her husband, Robert, who is an attorney here in Phoenix, he is a criminal defense lawyer. So call on him as he has an extensive criminal litigation experience. I had so much fun chatting with these two. I mean, from hearing about their longest date ever that included 2 countries, that started from 7 p.m. all the way until sunrise. They also talk about their background. She's a city girl from San Diego who drove a convertible Mercedes. He's a country boy from Oklahoma who drove a propane-powered truck and also does rodeo. So the first part of their story, they invite us into the journey and to hear about how it all started. And then the second part, you get to hear how they embraced their differences of their upbringings into a wonderful, loving, supportive marriage. And then the last part is they, as I always ask all my guests, to share advice and tips for single people who are looking for love. This is a beautiful story. I thoroughly enjoyed it from beginning to end, and I'm super excited to have you guys listen to it as well. So enjoy.
The story dates back to 1988.
Okay.
I was in California visiting relatives specifically for a wedding. One of my cousins was getting married, I think the following day. And I was at her mother's house, just visiting with the family and spending some family time with relatives. And Buffy walked through the front door. I don't know if someone answered the front door for her or not, but I remember this grand entrance into my relative's home. And I wanted to know who this very bold and confident individual was.
Country boy from Oklahoma was visiting the big city and was humbly threading popcorn for the wedding the next day, minding his own business. And I came in being a California girl and was visiting my friend who happened to be his cousin and I came up for the wedding, but we were planning on going out that night. So when I got there...
Not with me.
No, not with you. I was going out with the cousins. We were going out to the club or something. And when I came into the house and I saw him, I noticed him.
Yes.
He was cute.
Said,
I noticed him.
Did you pause there?
No.
You were smitten from the beginning.
And so, but I was already on a mission. So like I was there to pick up his cousin, and we were going out. So I was like, okay, we're late. We need to go. And then when they rallied back outside and we were going to the car, I was like, who was that? Because he was cute. Who was that?
See, she wanted, in other words.
And then his cousin said, oh, that's Dwayne. He's visiting from Oklahoma. That's my cousin. I was like, oh, okay. That was it. Let's go.
Tell the whole story.
That was it.
You said, is he with someone? Is he available? Why didn't you tell me about him? He's very good looking. You said he's very good looking.
I don't recall saying that.
She said that.
Okay.
All right. That's how it began.
So anyway, I went out with the cousins. I don't remember where we went. And then the next day, I went and stayed at a hotel. And the next day, I went to the wedding. And turns out he was singing in the wedding.
So then she said, oh my God, not only is he good looking, he can sing. And then she was smitten all over again. And then it was at that point, subconsciously, possibly, she made it her life's mission to get to know him, to pursue him. It's kind of savagely, actually. That's kind of how it happened.
No.
Yeah, that's kind of the way.
No.
I recall it. I specifically recall it.
You weren't even involved in any of the conversation. So while I was at the wedding, I did
Are you
say...
disputing my recollection?
Yeah, I did say, oh, he has a really nice voice. And he's still cute.
Do you know about that? Really? She's asking you.
Sometimes people are not what they seem at first. But he was cute. He has a really nice voice.
Do you remember the song that song?
I think it was Amazing Grace.
Amazing Grace. Would you like for me to... And I'm going to tell you how I was singing it.
No.
Okay.
We don't have time. Okay. So then, after the wedding, we were all, you hang around waiting for the reception to happen. And then the reception happened, and I was...
But before we get to the reception, what I noticed while I was singing is she was crying.
Oh, my God.
I got to a certain point in the song, and I think it was right at the point where you said,
no.
No?
Why would I be crying?
You were smitten.
Oh. No.
It was really a love story at first sight.
That's not
Canoe.
accurate. Canoe?
If I sing that song right now, would you like to see how it happened?
No, because the backstory actually is that I had just broken up with a person and had decided that I was not going to be in any relationship for any time in the near future.
How did that decision work out?
I was
not too well, right?
So I was not looking for anybody to date. I wasn't interested in finding someone to date. I was on my summer before graduate school. I was moving across country, and so I was not at all interested. But he was cute, and
he could sing.
He wanted to come and take me on a date. So it was probably like a week later, or the following weekend, you came down to take me on a date.
Yes. I had a rose. I showed up with a rose.
He showed up with a rose.
I had a
he
rose.
was picking me up from my father's house.
I went to her father's house with a rose.
Very appropriate.
It was very appropriate, very kind, very mature of me to show such admiration and affection for her.
I love it.
And that's just what country boys do.
Right. I think it's important for us to let the audience know that, Robert, you lived in Oklahoma.
I lived in Oklahoma.
Buffy,
the wedding was in Los Angeles, and I lived in San Diego.
Okay, good.
At the time. Mm-hmm.
And I was from Oklahoma, which was a different setting. It was a different environment. You showed up to people's, to take the girl out with a rose. You showed up at an appropriate time.
Nice.
You brought the young lady home at an appropriate time. You met her father. You introduced yourself. If he was home, yes.
Okay.
And I did meet her father on the first date.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So he comes and picks me up. He gives me a rose. Because he wasn't from San Diego, I had basically designed the date, right? So it
was a designer date.
So we first went to get something to eat.
Sushi.
We went to a sushi restaurant.
Which is, I eat that all the time.
But of course, being from Oklahoma, he didn't have any idea what sushi was. And he didn't even know when we walked into the restaurant that that's what we were going to have. And so, of course, I had to order for him. So I ordered, when you take somebody out for sushi the first time, you get the tolerable stuff. Not too much raw stuff, something simple. And you allow them to enjoy it. Well, he was a little bit nervous, and so he caught the waitress going in and out of the kitchen in the back of the restaurant to figure out, what am I getting ready to eat? Because I don't know where I am or what's getting ready to come to the table. So he was a little nervous.
That's true. That part of the story is very true.
But he was willing.
I was willing.
So he tried sushi for the first time.
Sushi for the first time.
And I think you liked it.
I did.
Okay.
I did.
So after we ate, then I said, okay, well, let's go to a movie. So we figured out the movie times, and we had some time to spare. I think it was, did we go to the beach before the movie?
After.
Oh, so we went to the movies. I think
You remember the movie?
Called Vacation.
John Candy.
Yeah, something ridiculous.
John Candy. Some wilderness type movie.
Yeah. And after the movie, we went to the beach. She couldn't stop
looking at me in the movie theater.
Oh, my God.
She kept looking at me. I don't know if she's watching me or watching the movie. I remember that. Go ahead, dude.
Then we went to the beach I used to hang out at, and found an abandoned bonfire. We walked around. We talked for a long time. And then I said, well, let's call your cousin, because his cousin, not the one who got married, but the other cousin that I was friends with, she lived in San Diego with me. And she had a boyfriend at the time. And I said, let's call your cousin, see what they're doing. And when I called her, she was like, okay, let's go to Tijuana and hang out down there.
And this is where I started becoming really concerned.
Okay.
Because we're at a beach bonfire. It's almost midnight. Okay. And I'm thinking it's probably getting close to the time that I should be taking her home.
Uh-huh.
It's my first date. You don't go out and spend all night with your first date. You certainly don't do that in Oklahoma. Right. So I'm thinking, hey, it's great to see my cousin. It's great that we're having this wonderful evening, but it's getting close to midnight, so it's probably appropriate that I take you home.
Yeah, after all, you met her dad, right?
After all, I met her dad, and I certainly wanted her dad to have an appropriate impression of me.
Right.
That suggestion on my part was not duly received.
Yes, I said, forget about that. Let's go to Tijuana. So the cousin and her boyfriend. Did you hear that?
She said, she said, forget about sound reasoning. I heard them saying something about going to Mexico.
Uh-huh.
I was thinking we were talking about New Mexico.
From San Diego.
From San Diego, because it just did not compute with me that we were going to leave the country.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think we were going to leave the United States of America.
Mm-hmm.
And when I learned that we were going to the border to go into Mexico, I had some serious issues.
Oh, absolutely.
Number one, I didn't know we were going to do that. Number two, I wasn't aware of the required documents to go over there. I didn't have a passport. I'm asking questions like, well, hold on. Well, wait a minute. Can we get back? Shouldn't we call the embassy? Shouldn't we notify parents? I'm from Oklahoma. You don't leave the country. You very rarely leave Oklahoma. So I just wanted to know what my state of mind was when Miss LA here is trying to drag me into Mexico
at midnight,
in the middle of the night to go party, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but I went.
Yeah, he was willing. He was willing. So that was important.
I was nervous, but I went.
So we went over there. We walked across the border. We found some club to go to. We got into the club. We danced a little bit. He was a little bit nervous. We really didn't drink or anything. We just hung out. And then
I got hit with the shoe.
There was a little bit of a fight that broke out in the club. And
I wasn't fighting. I didn't go to Mexico.
Some other fight, yeah. And then we said, we got to get out of here. But on our way out, whoever was fighting started throwing things and threw a shoe, and it hit Robert, and he was like, we got to go. We got to get out.
I got to go back. I'm sorry. I'm going back to the United States.
Yeah.
I don't want any problems in Mexico on my first date in Mexico.
Right.
So we left. We made it back to the border. We walked across. We got into our cars. It was probably like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
And guess what I'm thinking, Canoe? I'm thinking it's probably appropriate that I take her home. Right? We've gone to eat sushi. We've had a movie. We've gone to a bonfire on a beach that we had nothing to do with. And we've gone to Mexico. And it's 2 in the morning. So my thought process is as soon as our feet touch the land, the United States, I'm going to get in the car and I'm going to take her home. I thought that was appropriate.
Not doing that.
And guess what I was told?
We went to Jack in the Box.
We went to Jack in the Box.
Because I used to love to eat Jack in the Box.
She still loves to eat Jack in the Box, but she knows it's not healthy, so she won't eat Jack in the Box.
So
but she loves Jack in the Box.
We hung out at Jack in the Box, and then his cousin decided she was going to go home. And so then he was like, okay, well, where are we going to go? Well, I was having a good time. This is a good time. And so I said, why don't we go to the beach? I can take you to the cliffs, because you've never been here before. and we can probably get there in time to watch the sunrise.
This is our first date. This is our first date.
Right.
How many hours into this date is this now?
Starting about 7 or 8 is probably 4 in the morning.
Yeah,
3 in the morning.
It's good 4:30ish.
Wow.
Yeah, in the morning. The next morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we get to the cliffs.
Sunset Cliffs. If you ever go to San Diego, please go to Sunset Cliffs.
Yeah. And it's beautiful, and the waves are crashing, and we're talking, and we're having a wonderful time.
And I said, I think we should call your father.
Okay.
She said, why? And I said, because it would make me feel better to know that your father knows that you're safe because you're out with a guy that you don't know.
Right.
And I think that that's just appropriate. And she said, that seems to be bothering you. I said, it is. So guess what she did?
She called her father.
She walked from the cliffs out to her father's car because we happened to be in his car, I think. And she called him from the car. And this was like in 1988. And I'm thinking, this chick could just call her dad from the car. They got it like that. And he answered the phone.
Well, of course, he took my call.
He took her call, but they're like having a conversation. And I'm thinking, he's probably irate and he's mad and he's screaming. And she gets off the phone and she says, okay, he's good. He'll see me when I get home.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow, that's what I said.
Was he sleeping? Did you wake him up?
I'm pretty sure he was sleeping. And I just said, I'm
obviously not worried.
I'm at the beach. I'll be home in a little bit. Just wanted to let you know. And he was like, okay, I'll see you when you get home. And we got off the phone.
Wow. Now I'm thinking, I'm out with a loose woman. She doesn't have to be home. She doesn't have to report. It didn't really dawn on me that she was leaving for graduate school. So she technically was an adult.
Right.
I am thinking about environmentally and parentally. From where I'm from, you just don't do that. You just don't go on a date.
Right.
And show up at my parents' house the next morning and say, I'm home. It wouldn't have gone over well.
Yes, but it went fine.
It went fine.
After the sun came up, we went back. He took me back home, and
then I had to figure out what I was going to do because the people living in San Diego were my relatives. And because my relatives I thought were somewhat traditional, I couldn't just knock on their door at 6 o'clock in the morning and say, good morning.
Right, here I am.
You know, yeah, I'm here, without them knowing that I had been out all night. And then it was my mother's sister's home. So I was afraid that she would call my mother and say, do you know that your son just arrived at my home?
At 6 in the morning?
At 6 in the morning when he went out on a date with, because someone was going to ask, well, where have you been?
Right.
Did you spend the night with her? Did you guys go to a hotel? Yeah, I had some issues. And that's understandable, right?
No, absolutely.
Absolutely. And I was trying to give an adequate impression because I am the guy that had just sang Amazing Grace the night before at the wedding. What Amazing Grace, huh?
There were issues. We survived the night fine.
Yes.
Because he has a very soothing, savvy kind of voice.
You're recalling that now.
Yeah, you still have the same lovely voice.
But you just hear it differently now.
Sometimes it comes different.
It doesn't come across as it was. It was so new and so soothing and so fresh.
I love it.
She would fall asleep on the phone listening to my voice.
Oh, that's so romantic.
And 30 years later, she's still falling asleep. Listening to my voice. Right in the middle of my sentences. You're like...
I think he's a night owl, and I'm not.
Yeah, and I'm more talkative than she is.
Yeah, for sure.
So I want to talk about the difference between a girl raised in San Diego getting together with a country boy from Oklahoma. How was that in your relationship? How did that play out in your relationship?
Well, that has turned out to be really a wonderful blend in our relationship because it really caused us to have a lot of new experiences. So it was an introduction to each other's life that was always new and interesting. So, for example,
I drove a truck.
He drove a propane-powered truck.
Propane,
which I had never seen before.
I don't think I've seen that either.
Right.
So in Oklahoma, it's not unusual to have farm trucks that run on gas, but they also have a propane built-in system. And so the truck ran on gas, but if I ever ran out of gas, I had a propane system where I could turn it off, push a lever, push a button, and it would run on these clean propane field systems. She had never seen anything like that.
Interesting.
Most people have never seen anything.
I've never seen it.
But it wasn't like a farm truck. It was a very sleek, black and gray, had really nice rims. But I drove a truck. I still drive a truck.
Okay.
Yeah, that whole truck thing was new.
That was new.
I had been in a truck, but I had never really hung out with anybody who had a truck. I was a convertible person all the way.
Mercedes.
Beach
I met her in a convertible Mercedes. Daddy's convertible Mercedes.
Yes, for sure. And I used to go to the beach and sun and
bikinis, these little
boards,
inappropriate,
and all that. Oh yeah,
string
I was
bikinis,
all the way.
And I was like, oh wow, we got to kind of get you on those cover-up things. Bring you to Oklahoma and put you on some real food, some steak and potatoes, and fill you out. And interestingly enough, this past weekend, we went to a rodeo. And so we have still maintained.
Well, this is what I was getting ready to say. What happened was when he first came to Florida to visit me. So we went on another date, right? So we had been talking on the phone for probably 8-9 months. I went to Oklahoma, I think, first and visited him. And then he came to Florida to visit me. And when he came to Florida, we went on a date. I found this place to go trail riding. I had been on a horse before, but I knew that he was very much into horses. So I found this place to go trail riding. And we went and rented these horses where you take them out on a trail.
Well, it wasn't just us. It was like a collection of her graduate student friends. It was. No, because Terrence was there. Felicia was there.
I don't remember that.
They were all there.
But anyway, so while we were on this trail ride,
Jeff was there.
We were going down the trail, and he was on this horse and made the horse walk and trot and sidestep and spin around in a circle. And I was like, oh my God, how do you do that on a horse you've never been on before?
Yeah, you've never trained.
You've never seen this horse. And I was just scared, just trying to get the horse to just walk straight, don't run off with me. Let's turn around and get back to the place. And so that was one of the times that I always remember that I was very impressed with his skill set that was actually, from his upbringing from Oklahoma that I totally had no experience with. But the thing then that I did for him was that I fixed him this super romantic dinner. I made these homemade
crepes. She made
this
for me.
Beautiful, holiday sauce. And I had a wonderful table setting for our romantic dinner. And then I presented him with these concert tickets for BB and CC Winans, which was his absolute favorite gospel artist.
Nice.
And we went to the concert that weekend and had a wonderful, wonderful time. So it was really about sharing experiences that each of us had not had.
Oh,
and
I like that.
Because we were both young and willing, it made our lives and the whole dating process so much more interesting and so much more fun.
Oh, I love that.
Mm-hmm. So still today, we're still quite different in that sense, but we have certainly completely adopted each other's lifestyles. So now we go to rodeo because he still rodeos and keeps horses, but we vacation a lot at the beach. And
I'm still listening to the Winans.
And we still eat sushi, and we do a lot of gourmet things, and we just have a wonderful life because of the way our lives were so different, and we merged them together to make such a full life.
I love that.
Appreciate the difference and highlight them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
that's
tolerate them. And so it's been now
It'll be 29 years.
29 years in March.
Mm-hmm.
wow.
Mm-hmm.
I love this.
Yes, yes. And we have one son
He is the perfect blend.
who is the perfect blend of the both of us. There is the city side, and then there is the countryside, and it's funny to watch how he meanders back and forth. She plays tennis, I rodeo, he plays basketball. So we all have our own extracurricular thing.
Yeah.
We all support each other. And we have learned that the difference is something to be celebrated versus highlighted in a negative way.
Right, right.
So at this particular point, Canoe, I've made up my mind. I'm going to keep her.
She's
Yeah, she's a keeper.
like a keeper.
She's a keeper.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Look how she looks at me. She still looks at me.
Oh.
Yeah, I still catch her just looking at me like, God, you're such a good looking guy. Like, I just saw that. Like, I just noticed she was just like thinking back, like, how did I land this fish?
Yeah.
You know? How did you?
How did
I don't know.
Yeah.
I love it. So
Oh, that's fun.
can you talk a little bit about your engagement?
Oh, well, interestingly enough, I thought, well, you're going to be living in Florida. I'm going to be living in Oklahoma, and this will be very difficult to manage. And because she was such a forward-thinking person by nature or by training, I'm not sure. She was like, oh, it's that's not that big of a deal. We can talk on the phone, and if we manage our time and money correctly, I think we can find a way to see each other but once a month. We were in college.
Okay.
And we did that. I would fly there. She would fly to Oklahoma. Maybe it didn't always work out to be once a month. And as the relationship began to grow, we had met in California, and we had a date. We went out one day on Rodeo Drive. We were up there in Beverly Hills just walking around. And
we were both home for the holidays. So he was visiting his mom for the holiday, and I had gone home for Christmas.
So my mother lived in LA as well. I lived in Oklahoma with my grandparents, but I would come out there in the summers sometimes. That's how I was, and the rest of my family was out there. And so we're walking up and down Rodeo Drive, and I just thought, you know what? I would like to propose to her because I can see myself living the rest of my life with her. And I proposed. Because
I took him to Rodeo Drive.
Because she took me to Rodeo Drive.
He had graduated from Oklahoma to Rodeo Drive.
But I was still living in Oklahoma. So I proposed to her, and she said, yes, absolutely, unequivocally. I've been waiting for that question. And I think her response was, do you want to get married like next week? I just want to marry you. And I said, no, let's slow this down. You need to finish school. I need to figure out where we're going to live. Give me a little time. And so we started working on the plan, how we would live together, who was moving where.
Right.
I think we ended up meeting, that was in California, and somehow I had her meet me in New Orleans.
Okay.
New Orleans was like a date. Was kind of like a date, but it was kind of halfway. So I could fly into New Orleans.
Okay.
He could fly into New Orleans. We could spend 2 or 3 days and not, it was halfway. So neither of us had to spend 4 hours on a plane. We could do it in an hour and a half.
Right.
And we had a reservation at a hotel, and I remember getting out the cab that night. She walked into the hotel, and I had made arrangements with the cab driver that I'm going to act as if I left something in the cab.
Okay.
And I would like for you, when she comes back to the cab, to retrieve that, to say, oh, I think this is what he left. And he was to present her with the box with her ring in it.
Oh, okay.
It was kind of an aspiring way to present a ring when I was doing it through a person that was driving a dingy cab that I never knew and would never see again.
Yeah, it was risky.
But he did it. She did it. That's how she got her ring. And then we spent the rest of the weekend celebrating our formal engagement in New Orleans.
Oh, nice.
Since then, we've traveled just about. We've been.
Vacationing has been one of the cornerstones of our relationship, because what happened was after we got engaged, he decided to enroll in law school and moved to Florida to go to law school. While I finished my graduate degree there in Tampa, he went to St. Pete. So since we were both in graduate school and it was very intense as far as time management and studying, we would take care of our relationship by going out of town. So we would go on road trips all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And visit the beautiful coastal cities throughout Florida. And we'd take our books and we'd study on the beach and find places to go and have good food. And it was really, I think it was really a way of insulating our relationship from the stress of being in school. And it became a cornerstone. So we go out a lot. We staycation, we travel, we get on the road for the rodeo. You know, it's been part of where we connect outside of home.
Outside of work.
I love it. So, Buffy, had you gone to Oklahoma to visit to see his stomping grounds, or and what did you think about that?
Well, let me just say, I think the first time she came to Oklahoma was her way of learning just how country and hicky is, because I think she thought Oklahoma was this backwoods place where people were riding down the street with horse and buggy. She had never gone to Oklahoma and was like, they have black people in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
And who knew, right? And I said, no, Oklahoma is a city just like, San Diego. It's it's a city just like Florida. So I think when she flew into Oklahoma for the first time, I think she was surprised because I was at a very large university there.
Okay.
And I think she was like, wow, I didn't know that it was progressive in this way. But I think she was surprised.
Well, that's true. I had never been to, I really didn't go to a big university like that. And San Diego, well, I guess I didn't have the same kind of ties to the collegiate peer group as much, because by that time I was in graduate school and I was with a very small group of very highly accelerated people, so it was different. And then he took me while we were there. We went to the Black Rodeo in Okmulgee, and I was blown away. Like, I had no idea. First, I'd never been to a rodeo, but neither had I ever been to a rodeo that was full of only black people and thousands of black spectators in Oklahoma. I've never seen such a thing. But that was also very impressive because it's a very athletic sport too. So I didn't really realize that about rodeo, and it's very expensive. So for people to actually participate in the sport, they do have to train and, get themselves ready and spend some money doing it. So I was impressed.
So she didn't really know that black people, she'd never experienced rural black people that had farms and horses and land like that. Where you could just go out on your own land and fish and harvest hay, and it was and sit on the porch and drink lemonade and laugh, and all of the your friends and neighbors would come by and everybody's sitting on the porch. She had never really experienced that lifestyle until when she saw. I remember one time she flew into Oklahoma City and I picked her up and we were heading to see my grandmother. I think we stopped in a little town called Chickasha to eat some barbecue. And then we were headed down toward the, and she kept asking me, how do all of these people know that you're home? And I said, well, what do you mean? She says, because every car you pass waves at you. And I said, no, in the country, you just wave at the car because that's just what we do. Well, in the city, you don't. You're not polite like that. You don't pull over and help people. And so I think that the whole rural lifestyle was very new and enticing to her, just how slow life became and how caring we were for one another. I'd go home for church and then I would say, okay, I have to stop by and see this old lady and make sure her garden's okay, or stop by and bring a cake over here. And I think she was like, wow, is this guy for real? Yeah. Because she had never seen that type of country etiquette before.
What are some things that you deal with from each other? Like, I call them annoyances, but they're not quite annoyances. Just things that you deal with or differences that you deal with from each other over the 29 years.
Well, one of the things we used to fight about every year when we first got together was what we were going to do for New Year's Eve.
Oh, okay.
Because for me, I was a party person. Every New Year's Eve, I would dress up, find a party all night, have a blast. That would be my New Year's. For him, he would go to church, and he would spend New Year's Eve in church. And it would be a very family-oriented, reflective kind of thing to do. So every year, in the beginning, we would fight about, what are we going to do for New Year's Eve? And I would get these promises, okay, we're going to go to church and then we'll go out. Or we'll go out, but then we need to come in and, I would buy a new dress and I'd be looking forward to we're going to go out. But he wasn't really into it. He really didn't even like going out like that. So it would end up in a fight and we would go nowhere. And I would be pissed because I have this outfit. I have these expectations. I didn't get to get my groove on. My New Year's was ruined. And then finally, probably after 4 times of doing that, he finally worked himself up for the next New Year's Eve. We were going to go out and we're going to have a good time. And I was trying to control my expectation. So I didn't make any plans. I didn't buy anything. I was like, whatever happens, happens, because I'm tired of having this fight. So then he finds this really big hotel party to go to. And he buys these tickets. And remember that? We bought this dinner, the hotel night. We're going to stay up at this hotel and go to this dance party all night. And I was like,
which one was this?
What? It was so hard for me to get into it because this is a total turnaround. Are you this way or are you that way? If you just tell me how you're going to be, then I know how to act. So it took a long time for us to figure out how to get on the same page about things. The same thing would happen around planning. I'm the organizer. I keep the calendar. I manage the finances. He is very spontaneous. He used to balance his checkbook by calling the bank every day. What is my balance? What checks clear? What? How do you balance your checkbook by calling the bank every day? No, you can't plan that way. So that was another way. We were just so different that created clashes around planning for vacations because he would wait to the last minute to say he wanted to do something. Paying bills, he didn't care about extending debt out. Pay the minimum, do this. And I was like, I can't function like that. I just can't do it. So over the years, we have figured out how to value those other aspects of the other person and have inversed in a lot of ways of some of those traits so that he's much more willing to do the whole go out and have a good time, and I have become more like a homebody. I don't care. I can take it or leave it.
The last time we went out for New Year's, I was dripping with sweat. I mean, getting down to the get down.
Oh, wow.
Just throwing it down, and people in the club were like watching. Like, this guy is doing it big.
Oh,
And she's just looking at me like, "You gonna dance all night?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, we're going to dance until they turn the music off." And she's standing over there going, "I don't know if I've got enough in me to last another 30 minutes. So it's just funny how you actually become part of the being that the other person is over these number of years.
I
It's funny watching that develop in that way.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, now he plans most of the not most, but he plans a lot of the vacations. He does all the homework and getting it done, and I'm just like, okay, let me know what we're doing. So things have turned in a lot of ways, but it works.
It does work.
And so what about on the flip side of that? What are like one or two things that you absolutely love about each other?
Just one thing then, not 50.
Right.
Yeah.
In spite of my very intense ways, I can be very intense about a lot of things. I think a lot.
Focused all the time.
Yeah, I think a lot. I plan a lot.
She needs a guy like me.
I organize everything.
Take her away from all of that.
And he doesn't often express frustration about that. He really tries to approach it with humor, kindness, and a more fun, loving, way of intervening. Like, he just tries to interrupt my intensity instead of condemning it or saying how it doesn't work or how it really doesn't really benefit you that much. Why do you spend so much energy like that? He more interrupts it and makes me realize, okay, I don't have to be like this all the time.
I see.
And it helps me to lighten up and not be so stressful sometimes.
You know, she can be running her practice and have every office filled, and there can be people in the waiting rooms, and I can pull in and walk in the front door. And, you know, when you're a therapist, you have confidentiality rules and boundaries. I don't respect any of those things in the professional way that I should. I should know better by now, but I don't. So I'll come knock on the door, and she'll come to the door, and the door is cracked, and she'll be whispering, "What do you need?" And I'll be saying, "I just need to see you. I just want to see you." Like, I can't do this right now. I'm with a client, and I'm going, "Can I take you to lunch? Can I just see you?" So I don't respect boundaries very well.
No.
And she tells me that all the time. You know, you're horrible with boundaries. But I think that considering the intense nature of our lives and the way life is and the practice areas that we have, I've learned to appreciate her focus. It's intense. And it has benefited me tremendously. We've built businesses, we've built a life, we have, you know, been able to build vacation homes and travel. And a lot of that would have never come into fruition if I didn't have someone who could stay the course the way that she has, and building finances and savings and investments accounts. And so, you know, I've learned to appreciate what she has that I don't.
Yeah.
I love that about her. I have to pull her away from it sometimes, because this is like this from the moment she wakes up. She wakes up in the middle of the night, turns the light on, and writes a note. And I'm thinking, "You woke up out of a sleep to write a to-do?" She goes, "Yes, because I need to capture the thought." It's like that all the time. So I love being able to release or capture her and bring her out of that into a world that has no boundaries and no rules.
Wow.
No timetable.
That must be very difficult to do because I'm like you, Buffy. I wake up in the middle. I have a notepad on my nightstand.
Yeah.
I want to write it down because I don't want to forget it.
Yes.
So,
Me? I'm not writing anything down.
well,
And she's amazed at how I can be just the opposite.
yeah.
And stand up and try a case or give a sermon at my church. And she's like, I am just amazed at your ability to put thoughts together in storytelling form.
Yeah.
Because our mind,
no notes.
with no notes.
Wow.
Because I tend to live experiences and I don't forget them.
But then I'll say, imagine what you could do if you were more organized.
And then I say, but that takes part of the thrill and the passion of living it away.
So now let's transition to the last part of the interview. This is where I normally ask people that come on my show, what advice would you give that single person who may be listening and is looking for love?
I think the message that I would relay is be you. Never lose you. I think sometimes people are so willing to do anything to be in a relationship that they forget who they are.
Right.
And the things that you enjoy, those things that comprise your personality and your being. I think it's always great to be able to learn new ways of doing things, but have a real sense of self.
Absolutely.
Keep who you are. I've never tried to rid myself of my country ways. I love who I am. The self-image I have of myself is who I am. And I have never tried to change who she is. I think we've just blended the two. So in time, when you know who you are, I think you tend to attract, at the right moment, someone who can appreciate you for you.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And never be willing to compromise that.
I love that. Yep.
Because if you compromise who you are, it's really, what you get in return isn't really worth it.
Right.
Then you're always in search of, well, who am I really? Right? Yeah.
I like that.
That was good. That was really good.
What I tell my single friends is that one of the mistakes that we can make when we're dating is thinking too far ahead. Like trying to imagine if this relationship goes further, this is what it could be, and trying to act on that, like acting on some expectation that it's going to develop in a certain kind of way, either disclosing too much information or getting upset that they're not behaving in a way that lines up with a long-term relationship right now when you just met, and that puts too much pressure on the relationship and it can't work.
Right.
So I'm always telling my single friends, like, you need to just be in the relationship where it is today. Just act like you're enjoying what you have and don't expect it to be anything. Just deal with what you have in front of you so that you can enjoy it no matter how long it lasts. It's that trying to make it, shape it into a thing that you want it to be.
Right.
That makes it not work. It doesn't work.
And I think a prime example of that is our relationship. I haven't become 99% of the things that she wanted me to become. So she's had to accept he's really not going to get any better.
That's not true.
So I'm just going to enjoy this dinner.
Better.
I'm just going to enjoy this dinner tonight and really enjoy my movie because he's just not going to plan anymore.
Well, the truth about that is that any change that a person will ever make takes time.
Absolutely.
And when you're dating, that is not the time to seek for change. You don't have the patience, and it's not going to happen during the time that you're dating. But there will be things about your partner that do change over time, but that's not going to happen during the dating phase. In the dating phase, you have what you have, and you have to love what you have, whether it turns into something else or it doesn't.
Right.
I think the last piece I would add to that is the dating phase is contrived and possibly untrue, because this person is not really showing you
their true selves.
Their true selves. They're trying to impress, because we're dating, right?
Right.
And if you can relax the rules, so to speak, and present in a way that I'm not dating you per se. Let's just enjoy this experience. I don't have the pressure of the presentation.
Right. Yeah.
It can just be me. Let's just go to the movies without expectation as to where this goes from there.
Or what it means.
Or what it means, or what it should mean, or let's just enjoy the day. You know, I love that about her, that she's so willing to take on a new experience all the time.
I love that. I love that.
You know, let's go to Fiji. I'm like, why? Why would we? Because we've never been there. And then I get to go, and then when I get there, I'm the guy that wants to go back. Right? She's like, well, why would you want to go back? Because I had so much enjoyment in experiencing it for the first time.
Right.
And I don't think that you get to enjoy life the same way when you're single. Part of the experience is enjoying the experience of the other person.
Right.
If you can appreciate it enough, right? I don't need to change you. I don't need to take on that responsibility, but I would like to experience you during this moment.
Right.
Because it's new and it's different and it's a new perspective. But I have to be able to leave it at that and not project so much further, because that's when I think people get in trouble. And then you become people over time that you never could have dreamed you would become. You don't know where it's going to end.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like looking at, and I hate to bring this up, but this is a new reality. If you look at the tragedy that we're all experiencing with Kobe Bryant, who could have ever imagined that what they dreamed of would be the reality today? That his wife is waking up with a husband and a daughter gone. But what you hope for them is that they lived every day.
Absolutely. Yep.
So much so that she could live the rest of her life with the memory of the joy.
Yeah, of what they experience
from day to day. And that's what all of us hopefully are doing or learning to do.
Yeah.
This life guarantees us today.
Absolutely. That's all we have. We don't know if we're...
This is what we have. This moment right here is what we have. And I'm going to enjoy it to the fullest. I'm going to think about this moment all night long. And whatever happens tomorrow, I had today.
Yeah. And I love that too about the single people that we're talking about, is to enjoy life being single too, right? And in doing things that we love, and that's how you get to people who like the same things. And, you know, connections are made that way. So
absolutely.
I love that. So is there anything in this interview that you were hoping I would ask you, or something that you want to share with the audience that didn't come up during the interview?
I thought we would get more into our sex lives, that you would ask us some questions about the intimate details of our sex lives.
I would love to do that, but I think that's a different episode.
Okay, all right, I wonder. Okay, so I'll save that for later, okay?
Oh my goodness.
Other than that, no, I think it's been a, look how she looks at me.
I guess we could talk about our relationship for a long time. So many things to talk about.
It's been a long time developing. Yeah.
I love it. I'm listening to you guys, you know, has me... If I could interview you guys for the different subjects that I talk about, I would love to, like, you know, ask you guys about how you do this. In other words, it's a beautiful story and a great example that people could learn from. Even this idea that you brought up of two people from two different worlds getting together, and you don't have to change yourself.
No.
You just learn to embrace each other and go through life supporting each other in the way that you guys do. I think that's absolutely beautiful.
And the beauty, I don't think most people look at it like this, but the beauty is really expressed in the difference, right? Like she can be off on vacation with her sister in Fiji, and I can be in the backyard training horses, and I'm just having a beautiful time on the phone listening to her talk about her experience in Fiji, and I've got iced tea on the porch, and I'm just enjoying what I'm doing, and we can be worlds apart. That's the beauty of it. I don't have to be you.
Right.
You don't have to be me, but God, to be able to experience that difference together is a tremendous thing.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you both very, very much for taking time to chat with me, share with me.
Is it over?
Story. For now it is, but
I was just getting ready to get into a couple of other subjects, but okay.
We're coming back to talk about your sex lives. But no, thank you guys so much for being on Real Love Real Stories. I really appreciate you both.
It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much for listening, and all the way to the end. I am genuinely so grateful. So now you can continue to show your support in a few different ways. The first one is, if you can think of someone who might benefit from this episode, please send it to them. And the second thing is, we all are on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and the like. So please share this episode. And I love it when people tag me to their post. And 3, head over to iTunes. You can leave a review and you can rate this episode. All your feedback is very helpful, and it helps this podcast get visible so others can listen to all these great stories. Thank you so much. Till next time.